Well, the world's biggest airline is about to take off. The Justice Department settled antitrust charges, clearing the way for the planned merger of American Airlines and US Airways, but not before wresting some concessions aimed at protecting the consumer and making sure the new airline won't be too big. Investors did welcome the news. Shares of US Airways ended about 1% higher. Shares of American Airlines, which began trading on an alternate exchange after it went into bankruptcy, shot up a whopping 26%. Let's take a look now at what the changes may be in store at the combined airlines and what it means for travelers and investors. With more than 6,700 flights a day, the new American Airlines will be the world's largest. But both partners must pay a price. To get the $16 billion deal done and settle antitrust charges brought by the Justice Department, both American and US Airways will give up takeoff and landing slots and gates at 7 congested big city airports, such as Boston, Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, Miami, New York, and Washington, D.C. Some of the more noticeable changes will be in the nation's capital, where the new American will operate 44 fewer departures a day than the two partners currently have, giving up 104 takeoff and landing slots. 16 of those slots will be offered to JetBlue. The 88 others will be distributed to other airlines. At New York's LaGuardia Airport, they'll give up 34 takeoff and landing slots and 5 gates. Assistant Attorney General Bill Baer of the DOJ's Antitrust Division said the settlement will, quote, disrupt the cozy relationships among the legacy carriers, increase access to congested airports, and provide consumers with more choices. Why was the DOJ so wary of an American-US Airways merger? Well, for one thing, it will be the 4th big airline merger in the past 5 years. And once the deal closes next month, the nation's 4 largest airlines will control roughly 85% of all domestic airline seats.
And joining us now to talk more about the airline industry is Helene Becker. She's an airline analyst with Cowen Securities. Good to see you, Helene. Welcome. Let's start, first of all,
thank you very much for having me,
with who the big winner is in all of this. Is it the larger carriers, because now they have access to new gates, or is it the smaller carriers because they have access to new gates?
Well, of course, US Airways and American are going to have to sell those gates, and they'll go to auction, and the slots at LaGuardia and DCA specifically. So it'll go to auction, and the highest bidder will be the winner. You know, if Southwest and JetBlue, which are operating some of those slots now, if they choose not to bid, of course, anybody else can bid.
What is going to happen to fares as a result of this, Helene?
You know, I think that's a really good question. On balance, over the last couple of years, we've seen costs really increase. But that said, and as a result, fares have gone up with it. And we expect that fares are likely to go up because we think costs are going up. And I think that's really the way to think about that. Now, having said that, we expect that the slots and the gates that'll be divested will encourage other participants to come into the market. We know, for example, JetBlue is already expanding in Boston. We expect them to continue, and obviously that will help consumers in terms of giving them more choices.
Are most of the mergers in the airline industry behind us? It seems as though we've seen so many. Are there any left out there that seem logical to you?
Right, I think not. I mean, that doesn't mean after a few years there won't be others. This is the second time in my career that I've seen major technology improvements in aircraft and a major consolidation cycle. The last time we were talking about the top 10 airlines controlling 85% of the industry's capacity. Now we're saying the top 4. So I don't think there's a lot left to consolidate.
You know, I was looking at a list of the best performing S&P 500 stocks, and I believe Delta was on it. Is there any particular stock in this sector that you are more high on than others?
Well, I guess no pun intended there, right? But because the airlines have been really high-flying stocks all year long. I mean, we really like Delta. That's been a top pick of ours all year. We like United. That's been another one. Spirit. I mean, we've been pretty overweight on the group all year long, primarily because we're encouraged by the fact that airlines are focused on returning capital to shareholders. They're focused on limiting capacity growth, limiting capital spending. So, you know, we're pretty optimistic about the group. And as I said, we think that technology improvements in the aircraft will be hugely beneficial, and so will consolidation. So we're looking at the industry being able to report profits in 2014 as well as 2013.
All right. Thank you so much, Helene, for joining us tonight. Helene Becker, airline
Thanks for having
analyst
me.
with Cowen Securities.